Admiral Diana Reeves stood at the observation deck of Earth's last orbital defense station, her weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass as she watched the gleaming crystalline ships of the Solviri patrol the edges of lunar orbit. 20 years of military service hadn't prepared her for this moment. Humanity pushed to the brink, their resources depleted, their planet gasping for breath. The Solviri, a species of crystalline beings that had dominated the galaxy for millennia, had long regarded humanity as little more than an amusing curiosity. Their towering forms of translucent crystal, housing consciousness beyond human comprehension, moved through space with an arrogance born of unchallenged supremacy. They didn't consider humanity a threat, and that would be their first mistake. "Admiral," Dr. Marcus Stone's voice crackled through her communicator. "I need you in Lab 7 immediately." There was an urgency in his tone that made Diana's heart race. Marcus had been working on something revolutionary, something that might give humanity a fighting chance. The laboratory was a maze of humming machinery and holographic displays when Diana arrived. Marcus stood in the center, his usually pristine lab coat stained with coffee and what looked like scorch marks. His dark eyes blazed with excitement as he gestured to a pulsing device on the central pedestal. "We've done it," he said, running a hand through his graying hair. "The quantum pulse technology. It works. We can disrupt their crystalline matrix at a fundamental level." Diana approached the device cautiously. "Show me." Marcus activated a simulation on the main display. The Solviri's crystalline structure isn't just their body. It's their consciousness, their technology, everything. "Our quantum pulse creates a cascading resonance that—" He paused, noticing Diana's raised eyebrow. "Simply put, we can shatter them. And you're certain this won't harm organic matter?" "Completely selective. It only affects their specific crystalline frequency." Diana's mind raced with the implications. For centuries, humanity had watched as the Solviri dominated space, treating other species as beneath their notice. They controlled trade routes, colonized at will, and dismissed any attempts at diplomacy from lesser beings. A warning klaxon interrupted her thoughts. "Admiral to the command center," a voice announced over the station's comm system. "Solviri vessels approaching beyond established boundaries." "Looks like we might get to test your device sooner than planned," Diana said grimly. "How quickly can you get it ready for deployment?" "Give me an hour," Marcus replied, already moving to his workstation. "But Admiral, this is a prototype. We haven't tested it at full scale. The Solviri aren't giving us much choice in timing." Diana activated her tactical display, watching as 3 Solviri ships moved closer to Earth's defense perimeter. "They've been pushing our boundaries for months, testing our resolve. We need to show them we're not as helpless as they think." As Marcus worked, Diana coordinated with the station's defense teams. The Solviri ships were massive, their crystalline structures refracting sunlight in dazzling patterns. Beautiful, but deadly. Their weapons could reduce a city to ash in seconds. "Device is ready," Marcus announced, his voice tense. "I've linked it to the station's power grid. Range should cover the approaching vessels. But Admiral," he hesitated, "this will be an act of war." Diana's jaw tightened. They declared war the moment they decided Earth's resources were theirs for the taking. She watched as the Solviri ships entered weapons range, their crystalline forms growing larger on the main viewport. "They believe we're weak, incapable of fighting back. It's time to show them how wrong they are." The quantum pulse device hummed to life, its energy building to a crescendo. Diana could feel the station vibrating beneath her feet as power coursed through its systems. The Solviri ships showed no sign of detecting the danger, their arrogance making them blind to the possibility of human resistance. "On my mark," Diana commanded, her hand hovering over the activation control. The lead Solviri ship fired a warning shot, a beam of energy that scorched the space near the station. Their message was clear: submit or be destroyed. Diana's response was equally clear: fire. The quantum pulse erupted from the station, an invisible wave of energy that rippled through space. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a symphony of destruction, the Solviri ships began to fracture. Cracks appeared in their crystalline hulls, spreading like lightning across their surfaces. The ships shattered into millions of glittering fragments, their pieces scattered across the void of space. Silence fell over the command center. Then cheers erupted as the reality sank in. Humanity had just destroyed 3 Solviri vessels. The supposedly invincible conquerors had been reduced to space debris by human ingenuity. "Send a message to Earth Command," Diana ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "The quantum pulse is effective. Begin immediate production and installation on all defense platforms." She turned to Marcus, who stood staring at the drifting crystal fragments. "How quickly can you replicate the device?" "With the right resources, weeks, maybe months for full deployment." He looked at her, understanding the gravity of their situation. "They'll retaliate." "Yes, they will." Diana's expression hardened as she watched Earth's defense satellites track the spreading debris field. "But for the first time, we can fight back. And that's all humanity has ever needed, a fighting chance." As the station's crew rushed to prepare for the inevitable Solviri response, Diana felt a mix of pride and apprehension. They had struck the first blow, proof that humanity wasn't helpless, but this was just the beginning. The real war was about to start, and they would need every ounce of human resilience and innovation to survive what was coming. The age of human submission was over. The Solviri were about to learn that underestimating humanity was a fatal mistake. Captain James Harrison stood on the bridge of the EDF Intrepid, Earth's newest warship, watching his crew prepare for humanity's first major offensive against the Solviri. 3 months had passed since Admiral Reeves' historic defense of Earth, and the enemy's retaliation had been swift and brutal. But now, humanity was ready to strike back. Engineering reports quantum pulse systems are at full capacity, Chief Engineer Naomi Patil announced, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. The ship's revolutionary propulsion system, another product of human innovation, hummed beneath their feet. "All systems are green, Captain." James nodded, his expression grim. Intelligence had identified a major Solviri supply route through the Arcturus sector. If they could disrupt it, they'd deal a significant blow to the enemy's war effort. Begin final countdown. Alert all ships in the task force. The task force, 5 ships equipped with quantum pulse technology, represented humanity's best hope for survival. Since the first successful defense of Earth, Dr. Stone and his team had worked tirelessly to improve and mass-produce the technology. Each ship now carried an enhanced version of the original device. "Multiple contacts on long-range sensors," the tactical officer reported. "Solviri supply convoy approaching. 6 cargo vessels, 2 escort ships." James straightened in his command chair. "Signal the fleet. Execute Operation Starburst." The human ships emerged from their hiding spots in the asteroid field, moving in perfect formation. The Solviri escorts reacted immediately, their crystalline forms glowing with charged weapons. But they weren't prepared for what happened next. The human fleet split into pre-planned attack vectors, executing maneuvers that would have been impossible months ago. Naomi's engineering innovations had given their ships unprecedented agility, allowing them to outmaneuver the larger Solviri vessels. "They're charging weapons," the tactical officer shouted. "Not fast enough," James replied. "All ships, execute quantum pulse strike." 5 pulses of invisible energy shot across space, each targeting a different vessel. The Solviri ships began to fracture, their crystalline structures unable to withstand the resonance. But something unexpected happened. Before the last ship shattered, it broadcast a signal. "Captain," Naomi called out, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the debris field. The crystalline fragments. They're reacting to each other." Before their eyes, the fragments began to pulse with light. Data streamed across their sensors, revealing something extraordinary. The destroyed Solveri ships were communicating even in death, sending out a signal that echoed across space. And then they received a response, not from the Solveri, but from somewhere else entirely. Ambassador Rita Chen stood before the gathered representatives of the Meridians, their energy-based forms shimming in the specially designed chamber. Beside her, Fleet Commander Victor Torres watched with barely contained anticipation. The signal from the destroyed Solveri ships had led them here, to a hidden enclave of species who had also suffered under Solveri rule. Your victory over the Solveri patrol fleet has proven what we long suspected. The Meridian Elders' thoughts resonated in their minds. They can be defeated. We are not alone in our resistance. Rita stepped forward. The quantum pulse technology can be adapted to work with your energy-based systems. Together, we can strike at the heart of their empire. The chamber hummed with the collective consciousness of the Meridians. In the corner, a delegation of Kethera, silicon-based beings who had barely escaped Solveri extinction, watched with their crystalline eyes. Unlike the Solveri, the Kethera had evolved to embrace organic cooperation. The Solveri believed themselves invincible, Victor added, his tactical mind already formulating strategies. But their greatest weakness is their arrogance. They never expected their victims to unite against them. The Meridian Elders' form pulsed with agreement. We have hidden for centuries, gathering strength, developing our own technologies. With your quantum pulse and our energy manipulation abilities, we can create weapons they cannot defend against. Rita finished. But we need more than weapons. We need a coalition. The response was immediate. The Meridian's chamber erupted with light as they signaled their approval. The Kethera representatives stepped forward, their crystalline forms reflecting the energy display. We will share our knowledge of Solveri weaknesses, the Kethera leader announced. Our species may share their crystalline nature, but we have evolved beyond their rigid thinking. As the alliance took shape, alerts blared through the station. A Solveri battle fleet had been detected, larger than any they'd encountered before. The enemy had tracked them to the hidden system. This is our first test, Victor announced, activating his tactical display. Show them what our combined forces can do. The newly formed coalition sprang into action. Human ships moved in perfect coordination with Meridian energy vessels, while Kethera craft provided unprecedented insight into Solveri tactics. The battle that followed would become legendary, the day the oppressed united to strike back against their tormentors. As Rita watched the combined fleet engage the enemy, she felt a surge of hope. The Solveri had ruled through fear and isolation, keeping potential rivals apart. They never imagined their victims would overcome their differences and stand together. The quantum pulse weapons, enhanced by Meridian energy technology and guided by Kethera targeting systems, tore through the Solveri fleet. The enemy's formations, unchanged for millennia, crumbled in the face of innovative tactics they'd never encountered. When the last Solveri ship fell, the coalition had proven itself. But victory brought new challenges. The Solveri would respond with everything they had. The real war was about to begin, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. In her quarters later, Rita composed a message to Earth Command. The alliance is formed. The Solveri's reign of terror is about to end. Humanity is no longer alone in this fight. Strike Team leader Marcus Wong crouched behind a crystalline pillar in the heart of the Solveri Command Center, his pulse racing. Beside him, Science Officer Leah Martinez worked furiously on her portable scanner, analyzing the strange patterns pulsing through the facility's walls. These readings are incredible, Leah whispered, her eyes wide with discovery. The entire structure is like a massive neural network. The Solveri aren't just using crystals for construction. They're living inside them. The intelligence mission had turned into something far more significant. After months of coalition victories, the Solveri had withdrawn to their core systems, consolidating their forces for a massive counterattack. This facility, hidden in an asteroid belt, was supposed to be a command and control center. Instead, they'd found something that could change everything. Look at this, Leah continued, pointing to her display. There's a resonance frequency that connects all their systems. If we can disrupt it, we could disable their entire command structure, Marcus finished, immediately grasping the implications. He activated his secure comlink. Control, this is Strike Leader. We found something you need to see. Before he could transmit the data, alarms blared through the facility. They'd been detected. Time to move, Marcus ordered, leading his team toward their extraction point. Behind them, crystalline warriors began to materialize from the walls themselves, their forms shifting and growing as they gave chase. The team raced through pulsing corridors, quantum pulse weapons at ready. But they didn't fire. They couldn't risk damaging the facility before the data was transmitted. As they ran, Leah continued scanning, gathering critical information about the Solviri's true nature. They reached the hangar bay just as coalition forces arrived to extract them. The battle that erupted was chaos. Quantum pulses mixed with meridian energy beams and Keth-era precision strikes. As their ship escaped into space, they witnessed something unprecedented. The entire facility began to move, transforming into a massive crystalline warship. Get that data to command, Marcus ordered as their ship jumped to safety. The Solviri aren't just using crystal technology. They've evolved to become one with it. And that might be exactly how we can defeat them. Back at Coalition headquarters, the discovery sparked a flurry of activity. The combined scientific knowledge of humans, meridians, and Keth-era worked to develop a new weapon, one that could turn the Solviri's greatest strength into their ultimate weakness. Admiral Diana Reeves stood on the bridge of the Coalition flagship, watching as the largest fleet ever assembled prepared for the final battle. The Solviri were coming, their entire empire converging on Earth in a last desperate attempt to crush the resistance. Dr. Marcus Stone, now head of Coalition Research and Development, had worked with Meridian Energy Masters and Keth-era crystal shapers to modify the quantum pulse technology. Captain James Harrison and Chief Engineer Naomi Patel had transformed the fleet's ships into perfect delivery systems for the new weapon. Ambassador Rita Chen and Fleet Commander Victor Torres had coordinated the combined forces of a dozen liberated species. All ships report ready, Marcus Wong announced from his tactical station, Leah Martinez beside him monitoring the scientific data. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as the Solviri fleet emerged from hyperspace, a vast armada of living crystal, beautiful and terrifying. They still think they can't lose, Diana observed, her voice calm despite the enormity of what they faced. That will be their final mistake. She opened a channel to all coalition ships. This is Admiral Reeves. The Solviri came to our worlds believing we were beneath them. They thought we would submit, that we would break. Instead, we united. We innovated. We proved that the strength of the galaxy lies not in domination, but in cooperation. Today, we end their empire not through superiority, but through understanding. The Solviri struck first, their crystal ships transforming into weapons of incredible power. But the coalition was ready. The enhanced quantum pulse weapons fired, not to shatter, but to resonate. The frequency they broadcast matched the neural network that connected all Solviri consciousness. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a wave of enlightenment, the pulse spread through the enemy fleet. The crystal ships stopped, their forms shifting as the Solviri experienced something they'd never known, connection with other forms of life. The weapon hadn't destroyed them, it had evolved them. The rigid crystalline structures began to change, becoming more organic, more adaptable. The Solviri consciousness, for the first time in millennia, opened itself to change. They're standing down, Leah reported, amazement in her voice. The resonance is affecting their entire neural network. They're transforming. Diana watched as the former enemy ships began to transmit on coalition frequencies. The Solviri were awakening to a new reality, one where they were part of a greater whole rather than its masters. In the months that followed, the galaxy entered a new age. The Solviri, their consciousness expanded by the quantum resonance, joined the coalition they had once sought to destroy. Their crystal technology, combined with the innovations of other species, led to unprecedented advancements. On the day the Galactic Council was formally established, Diana stood with her fellow leaders, Human, Meridian, Kethara, and yes, even Solviri, looking out at the assembled representatives of a truly united galaxy. "We believed humans were helpless," the Solviri ambassador admitted, their crystalline form now shimmering with organic patterns. "Instead, you taught us the greatest lesson of all, that true strength lies not in dominance, but in unity." Diana smiled, thinking of the long journey that had brought them here. Sometimes the best way to win a war is to turn enemies into allies. Humanity never wanted to rule the galaxy. We just wanted to prove we belonged in it. As the council chamber filled with the representatives of countless species, Diana realized they had achieved something far greater than victory. They had forged a future where diversity was strength, where innovation came from cooperation, and where no species would ever again be considered helpless. The stars stretched out before them, filled with endless possibilities, ready for a new era of exploration and discovery. Together,